can still see some people walking in, so wait for one more minute. Yeah, all right, I'm just going to get started while the rest walks in. So welcome back. I also hope you've gathered some energy, got some coffee. I promise you I won't be talking for half an hour or an hour. I'm just only going to talk for 10 minutes, and then I'm going to put all you guys to work, because we've sat down long enough. It's time to put some effort in this workshop. So I'm giving this workshop together with my colleague Stella. It's about circular economy. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept, but we're going to explain you throughout the presentation. Is it working? No, it's not working. No, it's not working. Yes, it is working now. So first of all, I would like to discuss a subject with you, and it's the subject of perspective. Because the delegation here from the Netherlands lives in the Netherlands, which makes sense. But for instance, I live in Rotterdam, and my area of living concentrates about a single point of 50 kilometers. I live in this area, so I ride my push bike. I follow the strict rules of Dutch traffic, which are different than here in Sri Lanka, I can tell you. So every now and then I'll go out and travel other countries to get new perspective. Because if you live in the same area for 90% of the time, you get some kind of a tunnel vision. So when I traveled through Sri Lanka 2 weeks ago, I got a motorcycle, travel around the island, and I can see Stephen already smiling here because I told him. Normally in Holland, the dogs stay off the street. You never have porcupines running across the street, and you can only see cows in the fields. So I experienced a lot of new wildlife, also a great hospitality from the Sri Lankan people, but also beautiful nature. So in effect, this broadened my perspective in a way. And I also want to share another thing about perspective. Because what you see here is a perspective we, as persons sitting in this room, will hardly ever see. It's only been gifted to the astronauts going to space. And they call this picture is the first picture taken from the Earth, from astronauts in space. They call it Earthrise. And what astronauts do when they go into space, they do a thing, it's called Earth gazing. So they go out to the window of the spaceship, and when they're at the window, they start looking at the Earth. So it's exactly the other perspective we have when we're here in Earth looking up to the stars. And what all these astronauts encountered in a way is a principle. It's called the overview effect. They look at the Earth and they see a pale blue dot in the sky, and all boundaries fade. There are no races, there's no religion, there's just one single pale blue dot in a sea of black. And they realize, and it's a moment of realization which affected many of them, that there's only one. And if we, so to say, pardon my French, fuck up, then it's done. So what's happening on this pale blue dot, it's shown here in this graph. It's exponential growth. So since the Industrial Revolution and the last few years, everything on this planet has grown exponentially, including the amount of people on this planet, but also the consumption, extinction of natural species, water usage, motor vehicles, CO2 emissions, like everything. So if you look at these lines and how they've exponentially grown, especially the last 20 years, it's not a model we can sustain, because if we keep on going like this, we'll harm ourselves. That's basically the story. So something needs to change, that's for sure. And what you can see here also is another effect of exponential growth is the depletion of resources. In our products and the products you design, you need resources. You need resources to produce things. And what you can see here are a number of resources. I don't know if you can read them really well, but one of them is indium, and it's metal used in solar panels. So we're about making the planet more sustainable by placing solar panels everywhere, but this rare earth material is going to run out, and then we have another issue. So what is wrong then with our model that we are doing this to our planet? It's best described, I always use this pyramid. We've called it the pyramid of value destruction, and it shows linear business. Most of the businesses that are actively now in the world have a traditional way of extracting resources and turning them into products and then selling them to the end user. And what the end user normally does, or where products end up, is in the landfill or in the incinerator. And what you can see there, that all these potentially still valuable products, the value of this product is being destroyed. We've come to live in a world where trash, garbage, and landfills are a normal thing. Everybody's used to putting their garbage at the garbage disposal. It's a natural thing. We've come to accept it. Only that, as I told you before, it's not sustainable. It's going to get us in real trouble. So what's a possible solution then, among others, is circular economy. So the circular economy is about retaining value. So if you design a product, think further ahead than the usage of the product. Also think of the end-of-life phase of a product and how you can close loops, which actually derive from a natural principle from nature, where an apple falls from the tree is nutrition for the next tree. So in nature there's no waste. Basically this is a rip-off from nature, but then copied to an economic model. So the circular economy is about closing loops, and what you see here, that the higher you close the loop, the more value you will maintain. So if you've produced a product and then start reusing the product, it's obviously better than recycling the product, because normally people tend to think of recycling as a really good, sustainable thing. It is good because you close a loop, but it's better if you close the loop at a higher level, because you don't have to put all this effort in front, which you see here, extracting the minerals, putting them together again, so you can skip all these steps and use it again. So what Circo does is, Circo is a subsidized program by the Dutch government, and the Dutch government has put itself a mission to make the Dutch country fully circular by 2050. And that's a huge challenge, and we don't know how to get there, so we just started basically. And Circo is, as I told you, a program run by the Dutch government that teaches businesses and designers how to create new business models and products that support this circular economy. So how can I put this abstract concept of circularity and apply it in my business? So that's basically what we do, and that's basically what we're going to do with you in 5 minutes in a pressure cooker workshop. So the vision of Circo is really combined of 3 areas, and these areas are commercial area, the circularity area, so closing loops and of course not harming the environment, but it's also the creative area. And these 3 areas need to come together to be able to create a successful circular economy, because we at Circo believe that sustainability can also only grow when you can make business out of it. So when you make products that actually make money for companies. In Holland you see a lot that sustainability is a thing that companies place outside their core business. Oh yeah, we have to do something sustainable because it's good for our image. And we at Circo try to teach these businesses how they can use sustainability as a strategy, as a way of differentiation. So in Holland, which is I think a little bit different than here, the government has pointed out 4 sectors of focus in which we are applying the circular economy. So the construction industry, the consumer goods, the manufacturing industry, and the plastic industry. And each of these areas have a transition agenda which make the pathway to achieve the 2050 goal. So I've ridden around in Sri Lanka, and the circular economy is not a off-the-shelf thing. You have to use your creativity as a designer to see how you can apply it by closing loops. So the way the circular economy works in the Netherlands is different than maybe how it could work here. So at Circo we have this thesis, and we say in each moment of value loss of valuable products, materials or components, there's an opportunity for new business. So we are not looking at trash as a mountain of trash, we're looking at it as a potential gold mine or a nugget of gold, which you can reuse and use the value again. So the product or the framework that we use during the Circo tracks, which are 3-day workshops where we teach companies how to become more circular, is the concept of products that last. And this book describes 6 design strategies and 5 circular business models. All of you have a handout in front of you, and we're going to use those things in a minute, and Stella's going to tell you more about it. So this is just to put a framework to really apply the circular economy. And as I mentioned before, that's why, honestly, I have nothing to do with design before 1 or 2 years before. My main objective was to change the world in a positive way, and I came across design because it's a necessity to, in order to achieve it, we need to rethink how we design products in order to save our planet. So now it's time for action. I've talked enough. So what we're going to do now is what we've called a pressure cooker workshop. So we're going to do our 3-day course from Circo, and we squeeze it into 45 or 30 minutes. So I'll take you through the steps. We get in a few steps. They're lined out here. So what we're going to do first is you take in mind a product, any product that you know of, you consider. Just be creative. You are creative people. And what you're going to do is you split the people at your table by half. So you each have 2 forms on your table. And with your group, you're going to discuss and identify a moment of value loss for the product that you've figured out. So everybody understand that? Just a little nod. Yeah, perfect. So again, value destruction is a point of where a wonderful or like a still usable product, the value is destroyed. So for an example, just to give it an idea, in Holland right now, there's a big issue with decommissioning of offshore platforms. So in the design of these platforms, nobody has taken into account that an oil well runs dry, which seems pretty obvious, no? So what they do now, they have a big issue. They're like, oh, we have to decommission all these platforms, and what they do now is they recycle them, at least try to recycle most of them, and they get like 80 cents per kilogram for this platform. But this platform is a gold mine because it has pumps, it has pipelines, it has accommodation, it has compressors, it has all these kinds of valuable things. So maybe if they thought about it in the design phase and thought about the end-of-life phase of this platform, they could have decommissioned it in much more valuable parts and retained a lot more value. For instance, the pump could have been used in agricultural environments, or the accommodation could have been used for building areas. So it's a different way of looking at products. So I'll ask you all now to, split your table in half, take a product, and then you'll have approximately 5 or 10 minutes to think of a moment of value loss within the life cycle of this product. And there are 2 things you would like to consider. One is the ecological value, and one is the economical value. So which value is destroyed by which product? So Stella will come back at you with the next steps. So give you 10 minutes, and then we'll get to work. Thank you. And you can fill in your answers in this form at the area over there. And we're going to walk past and talk you through it.